My girlfriend confessed I'm not her style, and it's been driving me crazy ever since. I thought things were going great, but now I'm questioning everything. I first crossed paths with Ashley at my mom's clinic. Our parents had schemed to get us together. Otherwise, I doubt she'd have given a guy like me a second glance. Since I have O-negative blood, which is the universal donor type, my mom ropes me into donating every 3 months. I was lounging there with a needle stuck in my arm when Sharon, a childhood friend of hers, strolled in. Sharon had just moved back to our town and was excited to hear her old best friend had become a doctor. She introduced me to her daughter Ashley, a girl with striking, deep blue eyes. Her skin was even paler than mine, and that's saying something, considering I'm a gamer who practically breaks out in hives at the thought of sunlight. She was decked out head to toe in black. When she greeted me with a simple, "Hi," I squirmed on the bed, already sweating bullets. Thankfully, Mom came to my rescue. "Don't worry about Ryan. He's going to be a bit woozy for a while," she said. As Mom disconnected the tube from my arm, Ashley quickly turned away, covering her mouth like she was grossed out. She bumped her shoulder into a plastic container filled with cotton swabs, sending them flying across the floor. "No need to worry about those," Mom said as Ashley bent down to pick them up. "It's fine. I'm a total clean freak," Ashley replied. While I sipped on some orange juice, our moms kept chatting away. I couldn't keep my eyes off Ashley, and each time I stole a glance, she looked even more bored than I felt. I was way too nervous to strike up a conversation. Luckily, my mom suggested they come over for dinner sometime. Before the dinner, I tried to psych myself up by doing some push-ups in my room. When I finally sat down next to Ashley, she was just poking at her stir-fry. "Don't mind her," Sharon chimed in, a little embarrassed. "Ashley isn't big on broccoli, or carrots, or honey, garlic. Well, she's just picky, really." Under the table, my leg was bouncing like crazy, and by the time dessert rolled around, I'd barely managed to say 5 words. Meanwhile, Mom and Sharon had polished off 2 bottles of wine. With Sharon almost unable to stand, Mom suggested, "Why don't you stay in our guest room? Ryan can walk Ashley home. It'll get him out of his cave for a change. Our town isn't the safest lots of crime, like muggings and kidnappings, so it wasn't wise for Ashley to head home alone." Sharon practically pushed us out the door. "Don't look so nervous, Ryan." Ashley doesn't bite. We walked side by side in silence. Her arms crossed the whole way. By the time we got to her street, all we talked about was the weather and how blatantly our moms were trying to set us up. As we approached her front door, I mustered up the courage to ask if she was into video games. Her face brightened. "I play a ton of Terraria, but right now, I'm hooked on Risk of Rain 2. For the next 20 minutes, I wasn't the least bit nervous. I got so comfortable that I found the guts to say, "Hey, maybe we could play together sometime?" "Sure," she said. I practically sprinted home and bought every game she'd mentioned. Turned out, the online version of me was way smoother than the in-person one. Over Discord, I had Ashley laughing constantly, which helped me relax, and before long, I was dropping little compliments. It was like easing into a warm bath and gradually turning up the heat, except with flirting. One night, while we were playing Terraria, I threw out a challenge. "How about this? If I beat you in a PvP match, you have to let me take you out on a date." I could hear the smile in her voice. "Deal." My hands were shaking so much I could barely hold the controller. At first, it seemed like she had me beat, but I managed to pull off a win at the last second. I started taking Ashley on walks around the city so she could get a feel for the place. With all the news about robberies and break-ins, we never stayed out too late. Besides, I wasn't eager to run into the bullies from my school. They'd all heard about the hot emo chick with a killer figure, who'd recently moved here, and were acting like wild animals trying to track her down. I avoided taking her out during daylight hours because that's when we'd have been most likely to bump into those jerks. But Ashley didn't seem to mind at all. After a few dates, we decided to grab some McDonald's. Well, I did anyway. Ashley said she wasn't hungry, so she just watched me scarf down some chicken nuggets at a park bench near the duck pond. As I stared into her deep blue eyes, I felt a lump in my throat. I reached across the table and laced my fingers with hers, and she gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Slowly, I leaned in, and before I knew it, we were kissing. She seemed to enjoy it because we ended up sharing a lot more kisses. Pulling back just a bit, I said, "I really like you." With a smile, she replied, "I like you too." At that moment, I felt like I'd struck gold. I wanted to snap a picture of us and send it to every kid at my school, including those teachers who always labeled me a nerd. I got so wrapped up in all that kissing, I didn't notice how late it was getting. I suggested to Ashley that we should probably head home. We left the park and took a road that cut through a small patch of woods. Ashley didn't quite understand why I'd suddenly gotten so jittery. Up ahead, I spotted the bright lights of a gas station. I figured we could duck in there and order an Uber to get home. But just as we were crossing the lot, a car with its license plate covered screeched to a halt right in front of us. 3 guys jumped out, all wearing masks. I grabbed Ashley's arm and tried to bolt for the station, but the men blocked our way. I positioned myself in front of her, but someone landed a punch straight to my gut, dropping me to my knees. 2 sets of strong hands grabbed me and tried shoving me into the car's trunk. I flailed around, trying to spread out so I wouldn't fit, but then I felt the cold barrel of a gun pressed against my forehead. "Get in, or we'll kill the girl." Inside, it was pitch dark. I could hear sounds of a struggle and muffled voices from the front of the car. The car took off, speeding around corners so fast that I was tossed from one side of the trunk to the other. The air inside grew hot and stuffy, and I remember thinking I might suffocate before these guys even got a chance to finish us off. As we drove, I caught bits of their conversation. "Take the next right. We'll do it in the woods. No one will see." They were planning to kill us. I started kicking at the trunk lid with all my might, but it wouldn't budge. Soon, the car rolled to a stop. I heard a door open, then the low rumble of voices moving around the car. The fact that Ashley wasn't making any sound terrified me more than if she'd been screaming. At least then, I'd know she was alive. Suddenly, there was shouting from the men. Then, a gunshot shattered the night. As their screams filled the air, I went wild, pounding and kicking at the roof. At one point, a sharp piece of metal sliced my hand open, but I kept at it until everything went silent. "Ashley!" Footsteps came closer, crunching on the gravel. I held my breath. The trunk popped open, and a rush of cold night air hit me. All I could see was Ashley, silhouetted against the moonlight. I shot up and pulled her into a tight hug. "What the hell happened? Are you okay?" Her mouth was smeared with blood, dripping down her chin. She shook her head and pointed to the side of the car. We were in an empty lot near an old abandoned parking garage. Lying between us and a row of trees were 4 bodies sprawled out in the weeds. I crept closer and realized they were thin and shriveled up like ancient mummies. I could see bone and cartilage poking through. "Don't freak out," Ashley said softly from behind me. I fell backward, scrambling away on my hands and knees. "I know this is insane, but you don't need to be scared, okay? I'm not going to hurt you. I usually don't go this extreme." They were about to slit our throats, and besides, I was way overdue for a feed. She reached down to help me up, but I threw my cut hand up between us, blood still dripping from it, and whimpered, "Please don't kill me." Ashley doubled over, gagging. In between dry heaves, she managed to say, "Ryan, believe me, that's not gonna happen. O-negative blood tastes disgusting, like, worse than anything you can imagine. No offense. That's why you've got nothing to fear from me." She wiped the blood off her mouth with her sleeve, and then gave me a smile, flashing a set of fangs. "Because you're definitely not my type."